Good evening, everyone. The event will begin shortly. All participants must ensure that your microphone is turned off throughout the whole event. Students are also reminded to not leave the workshop at any point between the start of the event and also the end of the event. There will be an attendance form to fill up at the end of this workshop. I hope you can stay seated and lend your ears throughout the event. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of I.D.E.A 2022, I would like to express my utmost gratitude to all of you for willingly spending your time with us in this workshop. My name is Irfan, and I will be your MC for today. Before we start, let us give a brief introduction on I.D.E.A and Penang Youth Development Corporation, PYDC. I.D.E.A focuses on DIY projects and robotic automations related to science and arts. It aims to promote innovation, creativity, and fun in inventing. PYDC is a Penang state government agency that seeks to realize the collective vision of evolving the state of Penang into a developed and progressive society through youth enrichment. Their vision is towards integrity, marketability, and competence youth. Meanwhile, their mission is to educate, cultivate, and empower youth towards holistic developments. To achieve the goals of their corporation, they offer tons of self-development and training programs for youth in order to nourish their mind, enrich their knowledge, and to equip themselves with multiple skills. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Ms. Siti Aisha, Communication Executive of PYDC, to give some information regarding the agency. The floor is yours, Ms.
Thank you, Irfan. Is my voice clear?
Yes, Miss.
All right. Allow me to share my screen. I cannot share my screen. Can you enable the screen sharing?
Miss, we will be doing the screen sharing.
Sorry. Sorry, Camille. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, clear.
All right. So before I start, I would like to thank I.D.E.A USM Robotics Club for giving us the chance to collaborate and as well as giving us this slot to introduce PYDC to your participants. All right, so PYDC actually stands for Penang Youth Development Corporation, and PYDC is actually a state agency established on 14 March 2012 to help realize the official collective vision of transforming Penang into an advanced and progressive society through youth development. So our aim is to develop young people holistically, working with them to strengthen their personal, social, and educational development, and to enable them to exercise their influence, discover their voice and place in society, and to reach their full potential. So in order to do this, we conduct various uh, programs for youth, right? So these are the initiatives and programs that we conduct. So under PYDC, we have Youth for Future Initiative. Under Youth for Future Initiative, we have three different pillars called namely economic development, social development, and self-development. So for economic development, we focuses on um, programs to enhance uh, youth economic development. For example, in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of digital knowledge, to enhance, to add value to the youth. All right. As for social development, it is to increase youth participation in the society, and for self-development, it's more towards youth interest in arts, culture, sports. Youth interest. So, like it was mentioned by Irfan, our vision is towards integrity, marketability, and competent youth, and our mission is to educate, cultivate, and empower youth towards holistic development. All right. So for under economic development, we actually have We Want You job platform. So for We Want You, it is actually a job platform, just like Job Street, whereby youth can find career opportunity, job opportunity. So it is free for both employers and employees, job seekers, and it is open to all youth. All right. Then not just full-time job opportunities. There's also internship, freelancing opportunities that you can find, all right? So we have career enhancement program. So for career enhancement program is actually conducted by certified trainers, certified coaches, which are industry players, all right? So for this program, it is to guide the youth on the direction of their career. All right. So we also have career readiness program. So for career enhancement and career readiness program, it is almost similar. Again, it is conducted by certified coaches, certified trainers to help and guide the youth. All right. So we also have essential skills program. So for this program, actually it actually touches topics on uh, like those that are rarely touched in universities, in schools, like stress management, financial management, and all right? So we also have student enrichment program. Our latest is Penjana Activity Pace, whereby it is a collaboration between different agencies where youth will go through different workshops. It is a 6-day workshop. They go through the workshop and they actually go to company visit, right? So just last year, we had our first Penang International Youth Conference. This conference is actually a collaboration between PYDC and USM as well. All right. So this is to provide a platform for youth and young researchers, professionals, academicians to exchange and share their knowledge, information, and new ideas, as well as to make a networking with each other. All right. So for this IYC, what we call IYC, we had participants from 18 different countries and 500 participants in total. All right. So we have Youth Entrepreneurship Challenge, YEC. So this is actually an annual program whereby youth come up with a team consisting of two to five members. They have to come up with a business plan, business proposal, whereby they will pitch their proposal. All right. So not only just the competition, but before the competition, we will conduct workshop forum for them, and they will also be guided by mentors uh, from the industry itself. Right, so it is a collaborative effort by PYDC and chambers of commerce in Penang. Right, so we also have um, newly launched Penang Startup Accelerator Program. So it is to prepare the readiness of startup in terms of business, founder, market, and investor. And it is to get business founders and entrepreneurs to be ready for the market and investors. Subsequently, this will increase the competitive advantage of the founder via experience, right? So it is a 6-month accelerator program, which includes courses on the business fundamentals like accounts and financials, business management, marketing and digital marketing, web and tech, rapid prototyping and developing MVPs, leadership and business culture, as well as intellectual property and basic laws and legislation. All right. So we also have Tales of Entrepreneurs. So for this platform, it aims to promote the young entrepreneurs of SMEs. All right. We want to share their stories to inspire others that they too can become successful entrepreneurs. All right. So we have Penang Young Digital Talent Program. So it is a certification program whereby the certificate is acknowledged by the Penang state government. All right. So these are the programs that we offered. And in order to get a certification, you have to go through a minimum of 20-hour workshop and 80-hour apprenticeship. All right. All right. So for social development, we have what we call Penang Youth Volunteer. It is to encourage social participation among youth in Penang, which is aligned with Vision Penang 2030. And for this youth volunteer, there are 7 different categories: environment, sports, education, disaster aid, charity work, art and culture, and first aid. All right. So for this one, it depends on your interests. All right. If you like environment, then you can join for like flood relief at Bentong. Last time, we went there for voluntary work, and we have beach cleaning as well. But if you like art and culture, then we have mural art, whereby you volunteer to do mural art at places that have been assigned. And sports, we have voluntary work where whenever they have football competition and all, right? Okay. So another one is we have Sidang Muda. Sidang Muda is also an annual program. So it is a democratic training and workshop series that focus on civic awareness, democracy, and citizenship value among youth. So before the Sidang Muda itself, we have what we call Bengkel Demokrat Muda, which aims to construct the understanding of the importance to actively involve in the democracy process. All right. After few Bengkel Demokrat Muda, then they will go for the Sidang Muda. All right. So the Sidang Muda is exactly like the Sidang Dun, whereby they have to answer soalan, lisan, and all. And just last year, we conducted the Sidang Muda at Dewan Undangan Negeri itself with the Dun speaker presence. All right. We also have Pusat Belia. So youth and sports exco and PYDC are planning to have at least one youth center in each constituency. So this aims, the reason why is because we want to provide a space for the local youth community to carry out related activities and benefit the youth and the community, all right? So up to date, we have 9 Pusat Belia that we have launched, that we have opened. All right, for self-development, we have what we call blank campus. So it is PYDC's very own program, which aim to enhance and give exposure to young adults on the creative side of art. So usually it is done together with the initiative of Penang Youth Volunteer to beautify the community. So it helps youth to focus on their own unique techniques, and also it is a good opportunity for the youth to expand their network with other artists. Right? We also have Into the Lens. Into the Lens is actually a videography competition whereby it allows the youth to express their potential and creativity in producing short films, right? So the next one is Youth with Freedom. This is another initiative where we want to create a platform for performing arts that helps potential Penang youth to showcase their musical talents. So this initiative also encourages Penang youth to take part in performing arts as they find the interest and enhance their talents during the time of the pandemic, and they will be an asset in the performing arts industry. So up to now, we have conducted various programs under Youth for Freedom. We have conducted uh, few open mic night, all right? We have conducted, we are now searching for musicians who can perform at PYT events as well, all right? So for civic awareness, it is to increase the awareness and encourage the participation among the youth towards the social issue. And it is to engage the youth community to discuss on topics related to public concern. So topics that we have discussed include Undi 18, COVID-19 and all, you know. We want to hear what are the opinions of the youth on these topics, all right? So next one is art in motion. So for this one, it aims to create a platform for the youth to learn about modern and traditional arts and skills. And it is for the youth to explore new hobbies, which will ensure this heritage will stay in our lives. Right. So for this art in motion, we focus mostly on traditional arts like wall bulan, paper cutting, calligraphy, right? And we also have esports, all right? So as we all know, esports is becoming more of an increasing trend. So we conduct a lot of esports championship. But not only that, we also conduct a workshop on game development and all, right? So that those who like to play game can make it as a career, and those who are interested in making the game also can make it into a career, you know? All right, so that is all from me. I would like to ask everyone to scan the QR code to follow our Telegram so that you can have more up-to-date information regarding our programs. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Miss Siti Aisha, for the info just now. Before we kickstart, allow me to introduce our instructor for tonight. We have the honor of having Mr. Matthew Lim as the instructor guiding us in this workshop. Welcome, Mr. Matthew. Mr. Matthew is the president of Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, ITAKA PANU, IEEE HKN Mu Alpha Chapter. He is a third-year student of Bachelor of Electrical and Electronics Engineering with honors from UCSI University. Besides, he also experienced in NodeRED, ESP32, AutoCAD, C++, and JavaScript. Mr. Matthew finished his internship at Honeywell Engineering Sdn Bhd as project engineer, and he represented IEEE HKN Mu Alpha Chapter to attain IEEE HKN Outstanding Chapter Award 2020, as well as key chapter recognition for term 2020-2021. Now that our instructor has been introduced, without further ado, I'd like to hand this event over to Mr. Matthew Lim to commence his sharing. The floor is yours, sir.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. I believe my voice is clear.
Yes, sir, your voice clear.
Okay, so thank you to Mr. Irfan for that introduction just now. So I see there's quite a lot of participants here. So how's everyone doing right now? I see. Good, good. All right. So I think without further ado, I'll just begin the screen share. Okay, I believe everyone can see these slides.
Yes, clear.
Okay, so I'll begin. So this workshop is an introduction to IoT or Internet of Things using one of the many platforms you can use for IoT, this one being called NodeRED. So Okay, so you might be wondering what is NodeRED. So it's a flow-based programming software in that instead of usual programming where you type a lot, and also before that, I might ask, who here has programmed before? Any language? Or even a similar programming language that works similar to NodeRED called Scratch, if you have heard of it. No? Okay, then I'll just continue first. So flow-based programming is instead of typing out anything, you just drag and drop what they call a node, and then you connect the nodes like you're connecting dots, and from there you can complete your program. So it's built on, like I said before, that is it calling it a programming language? The correct term is actually not. Node is actually built on a platform called Node.js, which is meant for running JavaScript code, JavaScript being the programming language. Okay, I see Kugan did Scratch, so that's all right. I think that's good experience, like beginner experience for into programming. But yeah, just keep this in mind for like the next time that NodeRED is itself not a programming language. It's actually an extension of a platform to run JavaScript, the programming language. So next. Yeah, so JavaScript, as I mentioned, it's the programming language, but then more accurately, it's known as a scripting language because it's mostly used to make scripts that will run over and over, hence the name. And its main use is for making dynamic web pages. Present, all right. Okay, I think, all right. Okay, so dynamic web pages are the one like if you click any, let's say there's a button here, if I click it, then it will open up a menu. That's the basis of a dynamic web page. And then JavaScript is one of the three core technologies of the web, as you can see here. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, each have their own roles seen here. But tonight will be all on JavaScript. So next. Okay, some of you might have heard of Java as well, but then just to clarify, these two are not the same language. Java is the programming language, whereas JavaScript is the scripting language. And then the main difference between these two is that for JavaScript, the rules are not as strict, whereas Java is way stricter. If you have a single error, then your entire thing cannot run. Whereas for JavaScript, it allows some errors. The main one being semicolon when you at the end of each of your lines. JavaScript will allow you to run even if you accidentally forget about it. That's just one example. Okay, but also who uses Java is mostly Google and also a lot of Android apps as well as the popular game Minecraft. But JavaScript is more towards all the popular websites like the ones you see here. Okay, so with that out of the way, the background information, so I'll go into who uses NodeRED. So here's a list of companies that all use NodeRED. This is taken from the NodeRED, the author of NodeRED, their website. But it's not only all these companies, there are also Malaysian companies that use NodeRED as well for their applications, like in making escape room electronics from what I heard. Okay, so you know who uses NodeRED, but why NodeRED? One of the reasons is it's highly customizable. You will see as we go through each example. But not only that, you can run it not just on this computer here, but you can also run it on low-cost microcontrollers, such as the Arduino series of microcontrollers. If anyone here has heard of that. But not only that, the main advantage of it being flow-based programming is it's way faster to deploy than just typing out code normally. Okay, and as I mentioned, it can run on low-cost hardware. Here's the examples here. This is the Arduino Uno This is the expressive ESP32, which is a Arduino that has the built-in functionality to connect to Wi-Fi. And this on the left is known as the Raspberry Pi. It's a more complicated version of the Arduino in that it can also run as a computer in itself. But not only can it run on hardware, NodeRED can also run on virtual hardware, or more like software that pretends to be a actual hardware, which is known as a virtual machine. And these are the software that can do that, Docker, IBM Cloud. But for today's one, we'll be focusing mostly on running stuff on your local laptop. And at the end, I'll show some projects using the ESP32. Okay, so this part, I'll just touch on it a bit since it's not necessarily required to install NodeRED. Okay, that's a question. Are they similar like Maker, Uno? Oh, you mean the Arduino, Maker, Uno? Yeah, that's one of the models. But for any Arduino series, one of the requirements is, no, because it cannot connect to Wi-Fi on its own, you need the Wi-Fi chip to do that. So just make sure you have the Wi-Fi chip as well. Okay, so installing NodeRED. This is just a snippet from the PDF that you can download as part of the materials for this workshop. So I'll just skip this part. Okay, this part I'll just show it a bit since I'll be showing the NodeRED itself. So if I go here, I Node.js command prompt. I open Node.js command prompt. And if I type node-red, for anyone who's already downloaded Node and set up this, you may follow along as well. If not, just enjoy. Okay, so that's everything. And based on the slide, you see here, server now running at this web address. This is actually pointing to my local computer, which is why you don't see the www. So if I go here and enter, and now this is the NodeRED workspace we have here. I'll just show compared to the slides. Okay, so on the left here is basically all the nodes. We'll be going into most of them in a bit. And this is the main working area. Here is where you can rearrange your nodes, put them anywhere, and also connect them. Whereas on the right-hand side, there are several menus that will be useful for you. One of the ones here is debug messages. The thing about debug messages is if you're coding anything, if you want to test to confirm that it works, you use a debug message, or use something that can output a debug message. Okay, not only that, there's also documentation for each of these. So in case you do not know what a specific node does, you can just refer to here. This just gives info for all the current flows. These flows, you think of it as tabs on your browser like this. Okay, and that's all for this part. And lastly, here's the main menu on the top right. So one important feature I show is you can import a node that you have already saved on your computer, but you can also export a node. I'll show this as we reach the examples as well. And here's how you add a new node. You just come here and click add. And if you do not want this flow window anymore, you just come here and delete. I believe that will be all in terms of the UI. Okay, one more thing is the palettes, which I'll show at the end. So with that, we reach the first session, which is basic input and output in NodeRED. For this one, I'll be switching between this window and this window. So I hope everyone's okay with that. But yeah, I'll just start. So inject and debug, just think of it like the two basic nodes that you'll be using for all like debugging or etc. So the inject node here, what it does is exactly as the name implies, it injects what is known as a variable into your flow. So this variable, you can give it any value you want. Okay, so this value more like a special type of variable, which is why you see MSG dot something. This one I'll explain to it in a bit. It more relates to JavaScript concepts. But apart from this, to input a value, this is how you can test whether the value is correct or not. So I will just simply connect these two. And for this one, I'll just change the data type here from a timestamp to a simple string. Let's say hi. And once I done my connection, I just simply click deploy right here. And now I just click this once. And because of this debug node here, I see the output here. So yeah, that's the basic idea behind inject and debug nodes. Okay, so I'll start with this first example, which is to think of it like every time you open NodeRED, you can get a welcome message. That's the basic one we're gonna do. So for this, I'll just show here. So like every time I start a flow, I get a message. So the way to do that is just I just make this a more appropriate term. So let's say welcome back. Okay, so once you put a node, anytime you double click it, you can edit any properties like what I just did here. Like for the inject node case, I can edit what it sends, which is the payload. And topic is just think of it like a name of for this. So we can just say, well, this is just for you to know what this does. So for if you have multiple injects, you won't get confused. And here you can choose where it displayed. So if I move it to system console, it will show here. One more thing, since we want it to automatically run every time we start, there's one more setting to change. So I will click this text box to make it immediately inject or after 0.1 seconds, but then this one is just essentially it will immediately inject. And I do not want it to repeat, so that's okay. And with that, I will run. Okay, it's a bit lagging, so I think I'll reload. Okay, maybe I need to restart. Okay, yeah, after the restart, so as you can see here, instead of the regular message saying it start and stop the flow, there's an additional message, which is exactly what I typed here. Okay, so with that done, okay, here's another rough output. Okay, so the next part is, apart from string, there's a lot of other variable types here, but we'll have a look at the JSON one. Since for IoT, you'll be handling with a lot of data, a large quantity of data, so JSON is like one way to help manage the data, basically. Like here. Okay, so I'll just go on a bit on the basics of the syntax for JSON. So for JSON, it always starts with the curly braces on your laptop keyboard. If you can't find it, it's to the right of the P key, and you need to hold shift when you type it. If not, you will get the square vector instead. Okay, once you have this, you need to type out the, okay, as in the previous slide, you need to type out double quotes for every single word you put here. Okay, this one I'll just put name. And for here, since it's name, I'll just put my actual name, Matthew, here. So the way this works is this name is a key, and Matthew is the value for the key of that is named the name. So I hope that concept is all right with everyone. So I'll just add one more. I'll just say put it uni, and for here I'll put UCSI. And I don't need that, so I'm just going to remove it and also disable that. And for this one, I'll put it back to debug window. Okay, so okay, then I'll introduce another node other than these two. This one is under parser. Think of it like it's a way to convert between any two data types. So for this one, I can convert it between either a JSON string or an object. For this one, I'm injecting JSON. And once I inject it, after it goes through this node, it will be converted. The whole thing will be printed as if it were a string. So that I'll just show it here. Yeah, as you can see, the whole thing is printed as a string, which is hinted by the additional double quotes before this curly brace. So I'll just show it the other way around. So if I go back to here, now it will inject this whole thing as a string. So let's see what happens if I deploy. Okay, so now this is how you know this is a JSON, because it will output as a drop-down list, and then from there you can see the various key and value that you have. So yeah, this is what the difference between JSON and JSON string is. Okay, here's the rough output. Okay, so with the basics out of the way, we move on to the next session, which is manipulating the data you get from here using functions. So the first function referring to this category here. So the first one we're going to look at is called template. Think of it like your template is like a birthday card, let's say, and then you want to add a specific name to the birthday card. So the name you put on the birthday card is actually this, and the whole birthday card itself is the template. So just think of it like that. For this one, I'll just put A. Okay, so if I double click on the template, this is what I see. So this part is basically like, okay, the birthday card analogy earlier. Think of it like this is the happy birthday. Sorry, you are invited to this party, that message. And then this double curly brace is, think of it like a placeholder value, which will be entirely replaced. So let's say if I run this, the whole thing here will be replaced with A. And we will see it in the output here. So I'll undo that. And the reason it's double quote is because this is the syntax used by the template, or the name of the template like format, known as mustache. Okay, so if I deploy this now, yeah, so you can see now you don't see the double colon payload. But let's say you accidentally misclick a setting, like you put it as plain text. Now what will happen is it will basically not use the variable you put in. So if you change it to like AS, there won't be any difference. So just keep in note to, if you do want to modify, if you want to properly use it, then just make sure you have this selected. So yeah, this is the one that we just did. So simple example there. So moving on. Okay, so now this is a bit of a combination of what I just taught and by the two previous thing I taught, which is the data type and also the template. So for this one, we're gonna convert one data type into the other. And I believe for this one to make it simpler. Okay, now I'll just show the import feature. Yeah, so I can just import this, but then there's a quicker way where if I open this my file explorer, if I drag and drop onto the NodeRED page, I'll immediately get this. So this template here is basically all in JSON, as you can tell from the double, have everywhere having curly braces. And this one is actually JSON within another JSON. So there's a concept known as nested variables. Okay, so I'll just delete that and add the other one. Okay, this one change to number instead. Like 8, 7. Okay, now if I deploy this, the other output. Okay, right now I'm getting JSON. So what if I want to convert to another data type? So that's where I go back to here. And from here, you can see another parser node called XML. XML, think of it like HTML, but then the HTML is used purely for transferring data through the internet. But then the format resembles that of HTML, which is why both of them end in ML, like you see here. Okay. For this one, I don't think there's anything to change. I can just directly plug it in. And from here, I'll redeploy. Okay, as you can see, they added a lot of additional lines here. This one just saying that what XML version is it using, what encoding is it, which is standard for XML type documents. And as you can see here, you can see the less than and more than being used to encircle any variable. This is basically just HTML syntax. So if you learn HTML before, XML will be, I think, you will get used to XML more easily. Okay, so with that out of the way, and also after this workshop, you can play around with the other data types here. Okay, so next. Okay, so before I go on to the next section, okay, so on time. So before I go to the next section, I'll just present this again. This is just basically some basics of JavaScript, so the next session won't be as confusing. Okay, so let's take here. So for JavaScript, we can declare our own variables that we use to store any value we want or even store our output value. So the way to declare variables, there's 3 ways as mentioned here. These statements have their differences, but then for our simplicity, we just use the let. So if I want to declare any variable, I need to first type let, and then the variable name, in this case, the name is I, and then equals to what value I want. So this value can be a number like here, or if I want to equal a string like hi, I need to put double quotes and then type hi and enclose hi within that double quotes. And then also the semicolon, but I mentioned in JavaScript, you can choose not to. I believe you won't get any errors based on my previous experience with JavaScript. Sorry, I think someone accidentally unmuted. Alright. Okay, so the next thing. Okay, this one ties into the MSG.payload you saw earlier. So the reason is there's a dot in between there is actually the whole MSG is a special collection of variables, which is known as an object. So the next time you hear object, just think of it like a group of variables. Like you can see here from the previous example, this object is called pipe1, and then it has two keys, label, value, and then two values. Okay, so they're not keys, they're in here, they're known as properties. So if I want to output pressure, I simply need to type pipe1 dot label. And then in the output, I will get pressure. I will get this value pressure. And this is the message.payload immediately. The compiler will know to take the value that we input from the inject node. That's how we specify it. Okay, now the next part is we already went through how to declare variables and also the large group of variables known as object. But then for the rest of coding itself, sometimes you might find that for certain code, you need to repeat it a certain amount of times. And this is where I can introduce the concept of a code block. So this is a block of code that will run repeatedly based on a certain set of conditions. So this one is known as a for loop. As the name implies, it will run any code within the block, with the block being, you can visualize the block as everything inside the curly brace here. So everything based on this code, anything in this block will be repeated for 3 times. Because if here let I equal 0, and then this condition is if I is while I is less than equal to 3, you add 1 to I. So I0 is the first iteration, and then it will be 1, 2, 3. So this will run a total of 4 times. And for this one, although JavaScript is weakly typed, it doesn't mean you can simply forget to include certain things. For the code block case, the curly brace is mandatory for the compiler to know where it is. So this one is the one you should remember to add in. But then apart from for, there's also other types of ways to repeat this. Like, let's say if I only want to repeat this if this condition occurs. This is where the if statement comes in. Whereas for while statement is if I want to keep repeating until a certain condition is met. So I don't know how many times I want it to repeat. If I know how many times I want to repeat, I will use for loop instead. Okay, so the last part was just about if I want to repeat it a certain amount of times. But then for this one, it's a function. Think of it like a tool, like a hammer, that you only use when you want to use it. So if you want to drive a nail into your wall, let's say, you will take your hammer. But then if you're using a screw, you want to use something else, not the hammer. So something you only use when you need it. This is what the function is about. So for function is more like you define your own set of rules, or define your own command. Yeah, that's the word. So this command adder just adds the number 4 times in a row, basically the previous for loop. And then the return statement here indicates that once this is done, the function will provide the compiler a variable x. And yeah, it kind of describes itself here. Multiple inputs, so it can be x1, x2, x3, so on and so forth. It performs the task, and then it provides the output. Okay, so with that, I can go back to the function block, which is all the way up here. Okay, so the function block essentially enables you to perform JavaScript code on your input data, this one here. Okay, so before I'm thinking, why not I just use template, right? So some limitations of template. So for template, you can't really adjust your whatever value you come in here. So let's say now it's coming in 7, but then I want to convert it to a percentage out of 50. So I can't really do it with a template. So I will need to delete this. And then also not using XML, so I'll delete that as well. And then I'll just connect these two up. And then from there, I can use the function as normal. Okay, but then we're a bit lacking of time, so I'll just load in the example. I believe this one is 2-3. All right. Okay, so this this was the one that some minor issues. Okay, so I'll just type it out. I think this will take too long. Okay, so like I said, to use a variable, I will put let, and then this I'll call it A. And then I want A to equal to whatever payload I get, so I will type message.payload. Okay, and also let's not include that first. Okay, and for this one, I'll put another variable B equal to, okay, I want this to equal a percentage, so I believe it's that, and apply 100%. And then from here, I get a percentage. So from here, how do I get this out of the function? One way to do it is I can assign message.payload equal to whatever I get from B. So in this case, once what happens here is I let A equals to the payload, and then I let another variable B equals to a percentage of A, like a number in terms of percentage. And then finally, I set message payload equal to B, and then this return message returns the message. But then the thing about the function node here is I cannot adjust the return. It has to return MSG and nothing else. Okay, so with that, if I deploy, as you can see here, it shows about 14%. But then due to I didn't specify the decimal place, it will display it as that. And here's a rough example where it not only convert to percentage, but then appends it to a string. This last part is basically the template. So you can choose to add another template node for that instead of typing it within your function node. So this is also where the highly customizable aspect of NodeRED is. You are free to do whatever you want, but as long as it gets the job done. Yeah. Okay, so this is the first exercise, but then 1 hour left, so I don't think we'll go through the exercise. Okay, I believe we can have a 5-minute break now. So back to the MC. Okay, I think I'll stop sharing for now as well.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Matthew, for the sharing. We will have a 5-minute break. Don't go anywhere because we still have a short video that we want to share with all the participants. Please enjoy it.
Good day everyone, welcome to TechDom Penang, the very first Science Discovery Center in Penang. So if you're wondering what you can do here, what are the beneficial things that you can do here is fun with science. What are you waiting for? Let's step in and explore. Are you a big fan of detective kind of action movies? Then this platform gonna excite you. You wanna be in this mission? I dare you not to get hit by this light beam. If you want to preserve a beautiful memories with your loved one, all you have to do is strike a pose and see how color absorbs the light energy and stores at the end of the day. You got your frozen shadow. You got me? Yeah, you freeze your shadow. This is the interesting and exciting exhibit that we have. Why? If you know about motion sensor, it senses your body movement and let the skeleton dance. So now you can dance and our Mr. Skeleton will copy your dance move. G-Drop is the world's first freestanding exhibit that explains about gravity in a very easiest way. You can slice at same speed regardless of your body size. We are in a 4th floor near KFC. For further information, you can inquire our Facebook page down below.
What brings industries closer to perfection? We say precision and integration. For precision, it simply leads to innovations, while integration in industries saves crucial time to the manufacturing process. You may be asking, how do we know that? Well, we contributed to the advancement of the semiconductor industry. Our team of engineers developed solutions to our customers' most challenging needs. We provided excellence in precision to the instrumentation products that is used in various fields. We also serve customers in aerospace, life science and medical, and electrical and electronics (E&D) industries. We participate in the improvement of 5G telecommunication infrastructure. We build prototypes of the future. We acquired the necessary certifications to operate. Who we are. We are Keraza. We were established in 2001, choosing Penang, Malaysia as a strategic location for its fast-growing market, a base to heavy semiconductor industry presence while being on a world-renowned shipping route catering both to the local and international markets alike. We are an integrated engineering solutions provider with over 20 years' experience, having core competencies in sheet metal fabrication, precision machining, and electromechanical assembly. We collaborate with customers on the design and development of their products. One of the key production processes is to implement advanced quality planning that facilitates communication and collaboration between ourselves and our customers to achieve production efficiency by reducing cost and improving production cycle time. Since the company's inception, we have constantly expanded our capabilities by moving to ever larger infrastructure and investing in state-of-the-art machinery to integrate multiple processes. Most of all, we harness the human potentials, generating stakeholders' values and contributing to social development. We are a key part in the supply chain amongst the fast-growing industries. Be a part of us. Keraza. Think excellence. Think Keraza.
Welcome back, everyone. And I will pass back to our instructor, Mr. Matthew.
Okay, so welcome back everyone from the break. I heard you learned a lot from what I talked about, from the very basics and the background of NodeRED and everything, and also lastly the function to manipulate data. So without further ado, we can go on to the next session. So I screen share. All right. Okay, so the next session is, okay, so far everything we work with is we're using the inject node to get data from. So let's say what if I want to get the data from an external source, like another website, or even from other like IoT based hosts, let's say. So this is where the next part comes in, which is connecting your NodeRED to other networks. So the next slide. Okay, so I'll go to the first one, which is HTTP, known as Hypertext Transfer Protocol, where hypertext is basically text with a lot of links to other text. So I think you might have heard, like, if you click this, but people might say, let's say there's a link here, if I click it, it'll open a new page. That's what I mean by hypertext. And hypertext transfer protocol is basically how files on the internet move around. So think of it in that way. And for NodeRED, there's 3 particular nodes that particularly just work with HTTP. This one is known as in, or the endpoint. The way HTTP works is you have a request, and then based on the request, you get a response. So the endpoint here, it takes in a request and sends a response, like how HTTP will normally work. But then this time it works with your NodeRED flow. And for HTTP response, it converts what payload is currently in your flow, turns it into the HTTP response to send. And then the last one here is request, which just sends your current payload as the request. Okay, so we won't be looking into all of them, we'll be looking at only some of them. So move on to the next one. Okay, just a short diagram visualizing everything. So the data flow for a request from an external source, let's say it's a website, it goes into the response, and then from there it will be passed, be converted, this will be converted into the payload, and then from here it will be using the template node we discussed before the break. It will be placed onto an HTML doc, and then finally it will be in the response, the endpoint, where it will send a response in the form of a web page, where the web page here is basically this and then /time, because that's the name here. Okay, so a more complicated example, let's say, but this one should help you to understand it better. So I'll delete all this and again load in the thing 3.1. Okay, sometimes if your thing is very large, it will immediately import to a new flow. So from here, I don't actually need flow 1, so I can just delete. Okay, so how does this thing work? So the way it works is it will basically, from the previous slide, the flow will be here to here. But then this is the additional part here. Okay, and also I'll introduce this one is actually the change node within the function category. Change, it's called change because it changes the various properties of your MSG. So let's say I want to change my payload to my topic. If I want to do that, then this is how I will go about doing it. I can type message.topic and then to the value message.payload. And then for this other one, it's basically converting the timestamp variable of the message to the timestamp of the entire flow here. So think of the flow as an additional object, which is what you see here. Okay, so what will happen if I click here? So what will happen is the timestamp of this will be transferred to this entire flow, which will change the timestamp displayed on this web page. Okay, but I believe it's better if I show, so I'm gonna deploy. And now to access the web page, I open a new tab, and then from here I put time. Okay, now there is no time, which is why it's all NaN, which is actually a shorthand for not a number. Okay, so if then yeah, this page. Okay, so now I will click the timestamp. Okay, so this timestamp here is in a format known as Unix, which counts the number of seconds that have passed since a specific date point in time. Okay, sorry. Okay, so saying Unix is. Okay, that's the way to convert it. Alright, so this is the number of seconds that have passed since a certain point in time. I believe for most devices is January 1, 1970. So sometimes if you reset your phone or sometimes if there's any software errors, you might notice that particular date pop up. And that's the reason you see it, because it's used as the starting point for this. And okay, if I click it, it will show the other types. So this is one of them. I believe this is the UTC +8 way of showing the date and also the time. Okay, so this is UT +8. That one was another one. This one I believe is hexadecimal. That one we're not gonna go into, don't worry. Okay, that one, okay, I already put the timestamp a while ago, so what if I reload the page? Okay, now it shows a particular time because this function converts the Unix into a specific time with hour, minute, second. But then the timestamp varies a lot, so there will be a lot of variation in the time. So basically, this particular example here isn't the best way to tell the time. And also because this is a static web page, this will not automatically tick. So you obviously need to find another way to end up doing it. And before I move on from this example, I'll just show what the page looks like. So yeah, this is HTML. Similar to the XML shown earlier, but then instead of have this, the thing within the less than, more than having random names, they all have specific names that you must follow in order to have your output display correctly. But HTML, that's not the main focus of this, so I'll just keep it at that. Okay, so with that, I think I move on to the next one, which is, okay. So this is where I mentioned the getting data from the weather website. So before I show the actual flow, I'll just show a basic flow chart. This is actually standard practice. Before you start programming the program that you want, it'd be better if you make a flow chart that just show everything you want to do with your data. So let's have a look at this flow chart. I'll present, make it bigger. Okay, so the first thing is I need a HTTP request to the website I want to get data from. And based on the request, I will get a response, which is the entire HTML of the whole website. So the HTML of the whole website, from my testing, it was over 1,000 lines, but then the data I actually wanted was only in 12 of those lines. So after getting the response, I needed the HTML node because it can filter out HTML data types based on what was in the less than, more than, or the proper term is header. Tag, yeah, tag, TAG. Yeah. So one HTML node is used to obtain the title of a particular table. So think of it, the table is those 12 lines that I want. So I use one node to extract the table, and then I use another one to extract the value. So this might be familiar to the key value from the JSON I showed earlier. And that actually is the end goal, to convert this into the JSON. Because based on what I got from because of how the table in that website was designed, I had to do it in this particular way. Also, one more thing, after I got everything filtered out, there were some additional values I didn't want, so I had to remove those as well. So from let's say our 12 lines, from there we have remaining 8 lines. And then from these 8 lines, I make them into this, which is a JavaScript object. Yeah, like you can see here. You have location, the current time, the list, and also when the last time it was updated, and a few other fields here. Okay, so for that one, the flow chart had already quite a lot of things, which is exactly why this flow is quite complicated. And again, for the just simplicity's sake, I will simply import everything. So this one is exercise 2. Okay, 10 nodes. Let's see what they are. Okay, so this one, let's go as the flow goes. So left to right, downhill, left to right. Okay, so the first part, what I'm injecting is actually the link to the website I want to get the data from. I put it under payload, and then I use a URL property within the message object so that the NodeRED will know that this is the URL I want to open. And then from there, I can pass. I can basically, from what okay, this whole thing, this first 3 is basically I inject a website link or a web address as a string, and then I convert it to a URL, which can be parsed or also injected into this node, where it will get the data from that website from me. Okay, and I'll just show you what I mean by the output here being very messy. So I'll just run this once. And yeah. So you can see 5,000 elements, 50,000 elements almost, which is way more than what we actually need. So this is where the next few part comes in. Okay, the THTD here for start is actually part of the table that I want to get the data from. Because if, okay, let's say I'll just open the original website so you can see it for yourself. Okay, so this is where I want to get all my data. So if I open up inspect element here, or you can actually do it with a keybind, I believe it's Shift F12. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, but you can see from here there's TR, and then within all these TR you can see TH and TD. So it's from here you can see that TH correspond to the title and TD correspond to the value. So this is why, okay, I can close this now. This is why when I put TH here, the output will be everything within TH basically. So now if I move message payload here instead, yeah, now I get this. But then due to how the website is structured, I will get every single TH, which again is way more than what I actually want. So that goes on to the next section, which is the functions. So because right now there's 2 pathways, I need one function for each of them to basically cut off everything I do not want. So for this one, I just use a simple command that comes with NodeRED called slice. So what slice does is, essentially it's also in the name, it slices this whole thing so that only anything between 0 and 6 is remaining. So 7, 8, 9, all I can just ignore, or it will all be ignored and discarded. And exactly a similar thing with the TD as well. And then with these two, now I have two separate arrays. And then from here, I use another node known as join. This one is when you have multiple flows, which is exactly what is happening right here. And I believe for this one, okay. So the setting I use is to combine the message payload for each of them into an array. But then what happens? What is the output like? So again, I move the debug here. So this is the importance of debugging, so you know what's going on within your code. Okay. Yeah, so as you can see, all the titles are separated from all the values. So the last question is, how do I convert this to JSON? Because right now it's not JSON, it's not even JSON string. So JSON node I definitely cannot use. So for this one, I need something custom to deal with it. So that's why I have the function node here. So this one is where I just essentially convert this it's known as a two-dimensional array because you notice there's one number here representing one dimension and then another number representing the second dimension. Because I realized that's how you can get specific values. So let's say I put 0 and 1, I will get this. So that's how I know I can extract out the correct value basically. And so what does the output look like? I will put it back to this original position and deploy again and inject again. Okay, so you can see quite the conversion. But although there's double colon here, everything else is still fine. And yeah, that's the overview for this particular part. I think I'll put this here. Okay, so this one, that will be it for the HTTP session. So I'll move on to the next one you all just saw, but for that I will delete all notes. I will need them. Okay, so the next network protocol, so you will, that I will go through is called MQTT, which is short for Message Queuing Telemetry Transport. So what are the differences between these two? Okay, so from what you saw just now, a pure HTTP transaction, it was 50,000 lines. But then for MQTT's case, you're only putting in and taking out raw data. So let's say like 70, the number 70. For this one, I need to extract out the value 70 from the whole HTML. But then if I was doing the same thing via MQTT, that 70, I can immediately use it because that's how MQTT works. It will immediately transfer out the number 70 as it is without putting it on any HTML document. So think of it like you wrote a raw data. Sorry, let me touch that. So obviously the main advantage is your overall data size is way smaller with MQTT. And also another difference for MQTT is it follows what's known as publish and subscribe. So think of it like, I mean, the term subscribe, you might immediately think of YouTube. So like you subscribe to your favorite YouTuber, you will know what he published, because if you subscribe to the channel, you are listening to all current activity within that channel, like what video he posts. So it's a similar concept. For MQTT's case, you subscribe to any topic. It's not as a topic of your choosing. And then from there, you will get all the data related to that topic, but that topic only. So it's like you're only listening to what you want to hear, basically. But then apart from that, there's also the advantage of if one client within the MQTT is having issue, then the whole system won't be affected. But for HTTP, because it follows this model, sometimes it can occur. There's just no, you can't guarantee that it cannot happen, unlike with publish subscribe. So this one we can say is more stable. And also the last thing is, for MQTT's case, you can automatically update whether your connection is successful or error occur. But for this one, you might have noticed we had no such thing. Our only way to know if we work or not is if we get anything in debug. So yeah, that's all the gist about MQTT. And from here, it's pretty obvious which is better for IoT applications, because the smaller data size will help you a lot, especially if you're working with limited resource such as limited bandwidth. Okay, so the working principle of MQTT, you have several clients here, and then you have what's known as the MQTT broker. This one is your middleman that will work with the data that come in, and it will bring out the data accordingly. So let's say for this one, it will take in the data the client, and then it will send the data to the smartphone client as well as the backend client. And here's some examples of MQTT brokers, because I believe this is your first time hearing the term. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, I assume that will be the case. So after this workshop, you can have more look at it. Okay, so for this example, I will open an MQTT broker instance within my computer, and NodeRED will connect to it. So for this one, I'll be showing Mosquito MQTT. So I already have it installed on my computer. You all don't have to install. If you want to know more about it, you can find it on Mosquito's website. Okay, so the way to run this particular one is I have to use the command prompt. And to be safe, I will run as administrator. Okay, so how do I do it is I need to firstly, I use this command to change my current, basically change this. This is known as the current working directory. This is a concept you will learn later on as well. Okay, sorry, what was that? Okay, I assume that was an accidental scribble. Okay, so here's the spelling. Mos Q double T. So this is the MQTT broker I'm gonna use. Okay, so I will enter. Okay, and this command will immediately run the Mosquito MQTT server. And the .v, so the -v is the additional command saying I want to see all of this, which is the debug message. Okay, so some information on the debug message is the timestamps are in the Unix, like I showed earlier, which is why they're all in this number. Okay, but that's not the important part for now. So here, right. Okay, so now I'll load in the MQTT example 3-2. Okay, I'll try again. Ah, okay, I'll put this. Oh no, I'll just leave it here then. Okay, for this one is basically I will send any data I want and then it will output on to here. Okay, so for these settings, because I'm running it on my own computer, I will put localhost, but usually you will put a like website link here. And then the port, this is, think of it like the connection, like which, if you think of it like which channel you are using to communicate. And in this case, the channel I'm using is 1883. This is basically a default setting, so no need to change that one. Okay, that will be it for the important for this one. Okay, sorry, I forgot to intro. This one is the MQTT out node. So what does it do? Okay, I'll go to network. Okay, so MQTT out. This is the one that can connect to the broker and send a message. So the sending message part is why you see this connected. Okay, this one is the MQTT in node. So it's the opposite. It will grab anything from the MQTT broker, but as long as it's within the topic I choose. So in this case, I'll just name it topic X for simplicity. Okay, so with this, I will deploy. Now we're trying to connect. Okay, wait. Okay, just to be safe, I will restart my NodeRED. Okay, so what I did there is Control C to open up this terminate, and then I put Y to stop NodeRED. So I have to rerun it. Okay, so again, copy the okay, that's good. Should be connecting. Okay, unfortunately, there's some issue with the MQTT right now. So I'll just show what is supposed to happen. So for this one, it's supposed to show connected and connected. And then from there, not only will it show this to the payload, that then it will also show, oh sorry, not this one, it's the next slide. Okay, this is configuring the MQTT. Oh, and since I'm here, I'll just touch a bit what QoS is. So QoS is basically the standard of how you want to receive your message. And here's the conditions for each number here. The number here is what you would type under the QoS field. So what I just explained earlier as well. That's how you run it. This is what you're supposed to see. Like you receive a publish, and which is basically you but yeah, it will either show you successfully publish something or you successfully send something. And also there's a message if you manage to get someone to subscribe to the topic or not. Or no, sorry, or if someone disconnect. Okay, so with that, we can move to our last session, which is installing additional palettes. So, okay, I will delete this one. Okay, oh yeah, and also okay, not sure why that is the case. Okay, but yeah, now that's closed and I can close this. Okay, so here there's already quite a lot of nodes, but then for some use cases, you might notice the node you want is not available. So what do you do in this situation? So the usual way is you come here and click manage palette. Manage palette, you think of it like you're downloading a library for Python or C, let's say. So it's a similar concept. You download something to extend basically the capability of what you can do with your software. So for this one, I'll be showing the dashboard one, which is basically creating a simple IoT dashboard. So this is the one that I installed and we'll be using for this session. And once I install, I have to restart NodeRED, and after it restarted, I will see my brand new nodes all here. Yeah. Okay, this one I'll just show example 4-1, but without the MQTT. Okay, delete and delete. Okay, so with that, do that. Okay, so the other feature, so to say, of this dashboard dashboard palette is it gives you a free, like, let's say, okay, like in the previous example you saw, I did /time, but for this case you get a free like version of that website. It's called /UI, and here, so this is basically roughly what an IoT dashboard will look like, where you can see there's a gauge showing the current percentage, and then this one is a chart showing how the data change over time. Okay, so I will inject once, twice. Okay, I will inject 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. And yeah, I can see for this one, what I did is basically I put in this and then I randomly change the number to something else within a range. And then I convert that range to a percentage, like in the example 3, there's something. And from here, I basically do two things. I show it as a current percentage using the gauge, and then I use this to basically plot the data over time. So yeah, I just think of it in that way. So here's the steps I use. Okay. So here's the last big example I'll show before the final part of this workshop. So I will open up exercise 3 this time. Yeah, 21 nodes, quite a lot. Okay, so this one is essentially the previous exercise, but then think of it like it's an add-on basically. And because I don't need any debug since it's already done, I don't need to debug anymore, so I can click this to disable it. So now nothing will show up here. Should I click the thing? Okay, so once I already deployed this, if I reload this, it will show a completely different web page. Okay, so I believe if I set this up correctly, oh yeah. Okay, if I click here, it will show basically the entire thing from that website. And then if I click again, now I will get the data plotted. You can see the time just slowly increase. But yeah, all up to here is still pretty much the same as previously, apart from the button here. And these additional functions, essentially what they do is take out the value of the property. So like from earlier, you saw that the output, like if I wanted to get this value, I will put it as the object dot location, and then I can get this value. So yeah, it ties into that concept as well. Okay, so I believe that, yeah, second last slide. So last thing I will show is how do you edit the name of the web page. So the other thing with this is once you downloaded this palette, you get a new help menu here for dashboard. Okay, what dashboard does is every single one of these that you're putting in. For this one, I don't have it loaded, so it's not there. But yeah, this is how I can make it in 2 columns. If not, everything will be in the same column. But apart from the site itself, I can adjust a lot of the things here. And this is how I change the title name as shown here. And then the last thing is if I wanted a dark mode, I can do that as well. And now it's in dark mode following my browser settings. Okay, so I'll end this with, okay, so before I end, I'll just show I'll just give a challenge for everyone here. So I think everyone here who downloaded the materials, you have the exercise 3 file. So what you can do is input a city name, like just now you show Shah Alam, right? So make it so you can input your own city like Kuantan, Penang, Georgetown, Ipoh, etc. And then you can get the pressure and humidity for that city. The only like condition is that city's data must be present within that website. So just try to work within that boundary. But remember, this is just challenging yourself with everything you learned today, so you can put it to the test. Okay, so I'll move on to the last section, which is demoing some projects with ESP32 as promised. Firstly, I will show what my team submitted for the exhibition. So for this one, I will load you. And then immediately run you. And now I will show the hardware. Okay, can you see this? I need to turn off my background. Right. Okay, okay, now you can see my normal bedroom, but at the same time, you can see all of this. Yeah, so this is the project we submitted. Now I will connect this, and then within NodeRED, you can see. Okay, now it's showing not connected, but then I need to adjust this a bit. Okay, now connected. Okay, now if I go back here and see all this. Okay. So this is the sensor that's sending data to what you see here. And for the way we program R1, we can use this button to immediately open our host represented by this servo. Oh no, it went a bit loose. Okay. Okay, yeah. So this is represent the water pump close. This show it open. Yeah. Okay, now I'll show the other project. Okay, so this whole workshop, I basically been talking a lot. So let's end this with a game, shall we? So I will get this to work first. Okay. Okay, the LEDs are blinking, but then you all cannot see it. So I will press the repeat button here. Okay, so the game is, I want you guys to help me type in the chat what button combination, no, the exact combination of LED that just light up just now. So who wants to try? Anyone would like to try? Or do you want another repeat? Okay, green. Okay, next. I counted 4 LED. No, LED light up 4 times, so need 3 more. So which one? Okay, let's try again. Okay. Another bug. So I think for this one, I'll just hard reset by doing that. And then once this show connected, I will. Okay, wait, it light out, that means. Okay, you all didn't see that, so I will repeat once. This one is a different pattern. Okay, everyone saw that, right? So if you want to repeat. If not, I'll press begin. Okay, I'll just go with Yongyi's answer there. So let's say green, 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 red. Oh, okay, sorry, I forgot to change this one. Okay, unfortunate. I think that was the correct one, but then because of that minor issue, it couldn't light up the LED properly. Okay, wait, I'll try again. Okay. So congrats to Yonggi, you got it correct. Okay, how about one more round? I think we should start. Okay, who wants to try it again? Or how we have it, one person type each answer, then I will just go in that order. So Fugan say green, and then next. Oh, Yonggi again. All right. All right, we'll try that one. uh, Sometimes you like, but then there's just can't really do anything about it. Again, nice. Okay, so this code working exactly as intended. Every time you win, you will immediately restart. Okay. Okay, but then it's 9:50, so I believe I will stop here. So again, I'll pass it to the organizers. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Matthew. That was such an informative session. I hope that we have learned something new and valuable today. Now, we are in our Q&A session. All questions and inquiries from participants are highly welcome. Do post your questions in the given link. Later, I will read out one by one. Mr. Matthew, your first question from the student is NodeRED is applicable for super complex projects. Will it malfunction if there is too much connection?
I think NodeRED is best suited for like the mid-range projects, so not too many connection. And then also one thing, if you're doing like data collection one, you might have noticed when I was sharing the agriculture system, like if what I use is the serial connection port, which is one of the like palettes I got from the palette manager. The problem with serial connection is the moment you accidentally touch the like cable, it immediately loses connection, which means you don't have data. So that's my answer really. About medium. Don't not too large. If it's too large, then you might need other platforms.
Okay. The second question from the student. What makes you so passionate in learning this node?
Okay, actually it's more on because my path, at least in my course electrical engineering, my path right now is pushed towards IoT because I actually learned this from my seniors. So like that's where it all started really. Okay, and I think I also take the time to answer another question from Puganesh, which is the importance of JavaScript. Okay, so like mentioned at the beginning, JavaScript is important for coding your own, no, coding websites so they become more dynamic. So like for one of my committee members, they actually held a workshop in which they basically an introduction to website building, where at the end they made their own blog, so to say. which is more like a portfolio of everything they've done. And then they use JavaScript to make the whole website more dynamic. Like there's moving text, and then if you click something, you can drop down. That's all JavaScript.
Our last question from the student to you, Mr. Matthew, about the why we should manipulate data using the function.
Oh, because, okay, let's say I want a number. Okay, the reading I get from my sensor is 50. If I just post the 50 to the debug, it will just say 50, and then I don't, like any other person who read your code, they don't know what that 50 is. So that's where the manipulation of data come in. Like if you add some text saying this temperature reading is 50 degrees Celsius. So the other people reading your code will understand that, oh, this is a temperature. Okay. So it's partly making your data more readable.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Matthew, for answering those questions. And I hope that means the workshop was crystal clear and all your curiosities and questions were answered. Before we wrap up our workshop, I'd like to ask all participants to turn on your cameras and for our photography session. I repeat, I'd like to ask all participants to turn on your cameras for our photography session.
Hi, I will take the photo for this section. Please wait for a moment. Please wait for a moment. Okay. So there's few page. So first page, 1, 2, 3. Okay, second page. 1, 2, 3. Okay, third page. Please wait for a moment. 1, 2, 3. Please wait for a moment. Sorry. Third page again.
All right.
Done the
That's all for already. Okay. All right. That's all for our photography session. Thank you for your cooperation, everyone. Now, for the very last part, let me roughly introduce our next exciting activities for tomorrow, which are first, quiz content and R&R at 2:30 p.m., basic mobile apps designs workshop at 3:30 p.m., intermediate Python workshop at 5 p.m. It's time for a slideshow at 6 p.m., a talk about towards a sustainable transportation fuel at 8 p.m. And don't forget to play our mini game on our official website, I.D.E.A USM. It will always available to be played from 10 a.m. until 10 p.m. tomorrow. Since we have reached the end of our event, all participants are required to fill up the feedback form by scanning the QR code as shown in the slide or by clicking the link given in the chat box. It is important for participants to fill up both the attendance forms and the feedback form, especially USM students. Finally, please scan the QR code or click the link in the chat box to fill up your attendance. Once again, on behalf of I.D.E.A USM 2022, we would like to express our utmost gratitude to all of you for willingly spending your time with us tonight. Please don't be hesitate to follow our Facebook page and Instagram account, I.D.E.A USM, so that you were able to know more about our future events. That's all from me. Thank you and stay safe, everyone.